Hi folks, this is all the fruit. I'm in the city of Nerja, famous tourist destination at the Mediterranean coast of Spain. Well, right here there is the more or less biggest tourist attraction, the Balcón de Europa. But actually the biggest tourist attractions are the wonderful beaches, the Mediterranean Sea, and the fact that this town, unlike some others, hasn't really lost its, how shall I say, its soul. It hasn't really lost all of its authenticity. And yeah, look at that. Very popular with the tourists is this random teeny tiny cave house with a garden, which is literally less than 10 meters away from the sea. I've seen such gardens several times in Spain. They are more common on the Canary Islands, to be honest. I haven't seen them so much on the continent, on the peninsula, and they always intrigue me. This, please don't jump on my luggage. This agriculture by the sea, affected by the salt spray, I guess also affected by the tourists, although they seem to be harmless. Except when you have your luggage on a rock and there is your second phone in the luggage. Well, yeah, farming or gardening by the sea. I wonder, well, it's on the beach. Tides here are not very high, but during storms I'm pretty sure that waves reach all the way to here. And still this thing persists. Let's see what we can find here. So the center of all this is this little cave dwelling. Yeah, there are walls and the roof, but basically that's just one corner of the whole thing. It extends down underneath this rock, which has fallen down from the cliff. I don't know if there is more than one room here, but definitely most of the room is inside the rock. Of course, a little altar with the Virgin Mary. That's very typical here. And of course, a little garden in front. And I don't know what this here is up there. Maybe some sort of tool shed or whatever. I don't even know if they started out as a garden, or maybe it was a boat shed for the fishermen before we had big protected artificial ports here on the Mediterranean. They would love such tiny protected coves. They would pull up their boats here on the beach. They would live up there in the houses, and they would probably have some sheds for the boats and the nets and other stuff. Maybe this evolved from one of those. I'm actually quite surprised. It's a really well organized, tidy city that they tolerate this here, but I think it's a very good idea to tolerate it because it's obviously a little tourist attraction. Now, since I'm a suspicious pasty, of course, well, not the first thing, but one thing I notice are lots of plastic flowers. I mean, okay, yeah, watering flowers in those salty, sunny conditions, this is facing more or less south, is quite difficult, so a couple plastic flowers will allow them. And what do we have here? A number of grapevines. Also over there, yeah, the grapevines provide shade for the house. Now we are in late April. Until summer they will develop a lot more. So they will provide a significant shade. They will grow here along the pergola. In autumn they are being pruned. Also here the shed is being more or less covered by the grapevines. Everything is painted white, including the supports for the little garden. I mean, yeah, the famous white villages of Spain. There are places here where you paint everything white. And also painting the cave dwellings in white, or on the Canary Islands also often in red, is quite typical. I think it even protects the cliff face a little bit from crumbling. Yeah, as you can see, I've been filming for less than 5 minutes and there are already so many other photo shoots here. What else is in the garden? Some asparagus fern, actually a lot of asparagus fern, some in the pot, some in the garden. This is not a fern but an asparagus, so it should be called fern asparagus instead. Here some trillium, some jasmine. Surprisingly enough, they have mint in some areas. It's struggling here, but it's surviving. Some flowering liliaceae. I forgot the name of this asteraceae here. Here they are planting a fresh grapevine. Also 3 cucumber plants. Those are freshly planted, just like the grapevine. I don't approve so much of those concrete supports. I would have preferred them to use natural stone like in the older walls. Look at that, there are some older structures here. They could be for the tourist trail which is up on the lower cliffs. They could be for a different purpose. But yeah, those old flat Roman style bricks and the local rocks look nicer than this stuff. Also up there is an interesting detail. The cacti have died. Yeah, you think of cacti as a desert plant, but during the last couple of years of drought here on the Costa del Sol, actually almost all of the cacti died. They're invasive here, while the local population survived. I'm not so sad about the dying cacti. I mean, as I said, they are invasive. But it's amazing, and I've seen this several times in Spain. Cacti, as relics of old cultivation, survive for some time, but they don't survive the really hard droughts, not as well as the local flora. Oh, speaking of the local flora, this is a local endemic. I forgot what it is. I identified it 20 years ago in a different part of the area, but yeah, don't forget that the area of southern Spain is one of the biggest hotspots of plant biodiversity in the world, on par with the Amazon rainforest. Basically, if you compare the Mediterranean to the Amazon rainforest, the Mediterranean has a little bit less described species because it's also smaller than the Amazon rainforest. And one of the most biodiverse places in the Mediterranean is southern Spain. But now let's see what else we have here. Some pepper plants which survive the winter and are flowering. The tomatoes are already fruiting. Little cherry tomatoes, and yeah, they are being dusted with some sort of pesticides. I hope that's not too noxious of a pesticide. Fat fava beans, very important. 1 onion, maybe they have harvested the rest, and a tiny pepper here next to it. Over there are 2 onions of a different variety. Here we have the huge onion plantation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 onion plants. Oh, and 2 small ones, maybe garlic. And they've been fertilized with what looks like coffee powder. Nice, nice. More cherry tomatoes. What is this, Lilium candidum or something? Well, a plant that always goes very well with the Virgin Mary. More trillium, which is also a lily relative, which is suffering a little bit, probably not being watered too much. A couple geraniums, a fig tree, and a couple agaves. I guess the remaining vegetation is not really part of the of this little house and garden. But here, look at this grapevine. It is ancient. It is, what is it, well over 10 centimeters thick. Oh, yeah, could be about 15 centimeters thick. Here, under those extreme conditions, it doesn't grow fast. So I'm sure that this thing is well over 100 years old, growing here up on the up on the cliff, and here another one slightly smaller, well, a lot smaller and more mint. This grapevine is of course the biggest and most impressive plant they have here, showing that this place has been in use for a very long time. Also, there seems to have been another structure here. Look at that, remnants of a wall. I wonder, was it here? Maybe it was here. Maybe that's where all those concrete things come from, although they look more like they are most of them have been used to reach some boardwalk. A little bit of trash here. I guess the beach cleaners don't feel responsible for this area. But yeah, totally impressive, ancient little cave house by the sea. I like to see such things. Every time I see one of those, I really enjoy it. And I'm sure millions of tourists have photographed it from up there, from the balcony of Europa. Maybe that's also a reason it's been left here. Even the Spanish, which like to be very strict with stuff, yeah, you don't believe it, but they can be pretty nasty sometimes. Even the authorities left it. I'm so happy about that. Tell me what you think about this little cave house and garden by the sea, folks. Also tell me what you think about farming right next to the sea, affected by the salt spray. Tell me if I missed some interesting plant here. Apart from that, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful and incredibly fruit-rich Costa del Sol, the main tropical fruit producing area of Europe. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.